Hi, and welcome to another episode with the 42 podcast. I'm Alex, and welcome back, Brian.
Thank you. It's great to be back.
Yeah, so last time we had a chat on pretty much everything, work-life imbalance and people remodeling their closets. And
we had a lot to catch up on.
Yeah, it was many years of catching up, actually. So we haven't seen each other in many years, and probably most people haven't seen each other in many years because of the pandemic. But let's just move backward to 2019, where we had this transition towards the cloud. And I don't think it was pushed on hold because of COVID. Some parts were accelerated.
Yeah, I would say accelerated.
And some of them shifted direction, but it still moved to the cloud. What's your take on the cloud transition?
Well, definitely, I definitely agree that as we went into COVID and people started working remotely, it really forced a lot of companies to re-examine their timelines. They re-examine how they manage their endpoints. And we really saw a very fast acceleration towards more cloud management and thinking about how do I deal with all these endpoints that normally, perhaps for some companies, I didn't have to worry about because all of my devices were located on the physical premises of my company, and I didn't allow in some cases, didn't allow my employees to go remote, work remotely.
And this is a huge transitioning. How do you choose between being cloud only, work from the cloud, or having a VPN or direct access and those kind of services? Because it happens so fast. And do you see that many companies implemented something that they later reversed towards the cloud?
I'm not sure if anybody reversed direction, because I think customers were generally looking towards the future, and cloud is really the future, I think. I think there were certainly things that would slow people down so that they weren't necessarily moving as rapidly as maybe companies like Microsoft would want customers to be moving. But now, with the onset of the pandemic, and your end users had to be able to work from home, and this really presented some challenges in terms of things. I think people really started to move more quickly to some of the teams, for example. How do you enable work from home? How do you have the same kinds of meetings that you had, perhaps in person most of the time, but now you move to all of them remote? So you need to something like Microsoft Teams to be able to handle the video calling, handle the chat, handle a lot of the interaction between people that happens during a meeting. So that kind of forces you to think about, well, how am I going to manage these identities of my end users, and I need to manage them in the cloud, and they can be moving all around. They can be, in cafes. Most of them are probably stuck at home right now, if it's during the pandemic. But I need to be able to make it easier for them to log in wherever they are. VPN can sometimes get in the way of getting to the resources that you need. I know at Microsoft, my own personal experience is Microsoft has been moving away from using VPN, and a lot of our assets are now located, with direct access. So there's a lot of companies I think are looking at how do I simplify the management of my endpoints, and I think the cloud is the way to do that.
There's a very interesting key take here as well, because applying features like VPN breaks other parts of the device. I know sales representatives for a large electronics store in Norway, all of his IoT devices in his house stopped working because they all of a sudden enforced a use of VPN towards the company link. And this VPN was always on. So he had to manually turn off his VPN in order to use his vacuum cleaner. So thinking of how you impact and how you break people's daily routines by enforcing these rules and technologies is also kind of hard. Almost a large topic here is we're moving away from how many hundreds of group policies does a company have, all these ways of legacy altering and legacy managing devices towards the cloud, because we have a lot of struggling trying to implement forcing applications, forcing policies, locking down devices when they purchase their own bring your own phone. Mm-hmm. You still want them to be able to access work resources, but they don't want you to modify the device. Why do we still have that mindset on Windows devices and notebooks?
I think that's a really, really great question. Is how do we, move beyond the mindset of the group policy, the on-premise control, even some of the markets that I have worked in, they refer to the standard operating environment, where they'll create an image and then apply that image across all of their devices. When they receive the physical device, that image gets applied, or sometimes or frequently a partner applies that physical image. But we can't do that in a world where we're all remote without great cost, because you have to deal with the logistics of shipping the device, applying the image, and then shipping the device out. And so moving away from that to more streamlined, more simplification, using MDM to control some of the things that you want to do on the device rather than group policy, will make it much, much easier. Adopting things like autopilot, which is a modern tool that lets you deploy and provision how you configure your device without applying this heavy-handed image to the device.
That's very valid points. And I tend to say, almost like a joke, that whenever you get a new device, you unbox it for the end user, you take the device out, you plug in the cable, you do the imaging of your iPhone. They never do that. So it's all about the mindset and trying to realize that if you do the purchasing and acquisition cleaning job and you do the talk with your vendor, you can do the same thing with your PCs as well, because Windows is already there. You don't need to kind of remove it to build a new one. So finding new ways to achieve the same thing without applying the legacy way of managing them is basically a huge problem. But what is your answer when people say, we can't go to the cloud because we need to have control of the device, we can't apply all these group policies in Intune? What's your key take on those?
Well, I mean, that opens up a whole number of different scenarios, I think. One scenario that I would say that you might investigate is whenever you have, say, a vendor that you're working with, or new employees, or even some other unique scenarios where you want to have control over the access to company resources, but you don't have control over the device that is being accessed. One solution would be a relatively new product, the Windows 365 or the Cloud PC, where you can actually create a PC in the cloud, and either your employees, your vendors, anybody that needs to access your company resources can connect to that cloud PC. Then you manage that cloud PC, and the management tools are exactly what you're familiar with. They're the same management tools that you're used to using, Microsoft Endpoint Manager and Intune. It's a virtual PC. I hate to use that word because it brings back so many thoughts about the world of VDI and virtual. But if you just think of it as a PC that is connected through anybody's hardware, where you don't need to control the hardware. You can control everything you need to control about in the cloud, that cloud PC, and then anybody that needs to connect to it connects to it through their device. And it's still a very secure environment because you don't have to worry about what's on that device. You only need to worry about what's happening in the cloud PC.
So we're talking about all these different types of cloud endpoints. So you have Windows 365. I think we can come up with at least two other ones like cell phones and PCs and
Yes,
Macs
absolutely.
and IoTs. And so where do you kind of say that we would like to enforce security on a device level or application level or information level? Do you secure one with a third-party tool and everything's good?
Most customers actually already have and already paying for those tools. I would say the first thing to do is to look at what you're already invested in, what you're already paying for. In a world today, and if you're watching this video right now, it's September of 2022. So as we come out of the pandemic, as we are dealing with some global situations, some inflation and things, and there's some concern about recession globally. As we look to save cost, I think the first thing to do is look at what you're already paying for. I think rather than looking at add-on solutions that do little things, and maybe in some cases they do a little bit more, I think when you look at what you're paying for, you're already doing those things. You don't need to go and buy extra add-on tools. You probably already have the tools to do permission management, to do identity management, to manage with MDM your devices. You probably already have all those things.
It's almost like reviewing your gym membership because you probably pay for all these additional services. Use them or lose them. So find a way of utilizing what you're already paying for.
Yeah, I love that analogy. I mean, it's almost like looking at all the magazine subscriptions that you have, and are you still reading all these magazines that keep coming in? And maybe you're streaming, you have Netflix and Disney Plus and all these different streaming services. Maybe it's time to consolidate and reduce the ones that you're not actually using. Or maybe there's some redundancy where, hey, all the shows that you're watching are on, I'm not endorsing any particular streaming, but like Netflix, for example, maybe you decide that Netflix is all you need. Maybe you don't need all this gym add-ons. Maybe you're not seeing a trainer. Maybe you're not even going to the gym anymore because you're working from home and you're lifting weights at home and doing aerobic exercise at home. So, I think this is a really good time to review what are the things that maybe there might be some redundancies and where you could actually leverage more what you have and do more with that.
Oh, definitely. So seeing how we could reduce cost and improve the usability, security, and productivity is a key takeaway because you are already paying for a lot of these services. So maximizing the utility of what you're paying for is a very good way of starting. And I know that a lot of companies are worrying about the electric bill. You mentioned the time where we are, and the energy situation in Europe is quite interesting to focus. So reviewing what kind of devices you're purchasing to see, do we really need to increase our electric bill for doing this? Do we need to invest in our own data center for this? Because you probably have some of the services already available either in the cloud, third-party vendors, or in your data house already. And how do we convince people to do these? For me, I kind of struggle to say that don't break your PC with all these policies because less is really more. So applying fewer policies, modifying less on the device is the way of approaching. Where we go from there, because the security guys are going to stall.
Yeah, the security guys are going to stall because you're probably investing and paying for a lot of additional security components because you have this notion that the more security apps and services I apply, the safer I am. But I don't think that's always the case. I think when you have more security products, you're opening yourselves up to more attacks because there's multiple ways now that people can get in. I won't go into some of the pain that some customers and some partners have had, but there's definitely been a lot of security concerns, and it increases, right? That's an increasing concern. So it's something I think we all need to look at.
We all heard about the cases of solar, wind, and such parties, and not to talk less of some of those vendors, but we know that just having access to a login to a third-party tool or to a first-party tool, an additional access is an additional vector that you need to monitor and protect. Yes. So I tend to say that the portal I'm missing is portal.microsoft.com, just the portal to rule them all. So get a single pane of view just to see what are you actually paying for, who is providing them, and why do you use them? Is the reason still valid? Because I don't think you still need the 2008 McAfee license renewed.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's part of it is just the history, right? 10 years ago, we really had to use multiple vendors in order to achieve all the different security, bubbles or places where we needed to focus.
Third-party firewalls on Windows. So even software firewalls on Windows was something, and you don't need it anymore.
Nowadays, most of those things, if not really all of them, are included probably in what you're already paying for in your Microsoft. And I'm going to be Microsoft-centric here, but they're probably already in your
service subscription.
Yeah, your subscription.
Yeah, and so the security guys, the way I try to rebounce the questions on, we need group policy to prevent them from doing this. We need to hinder them from plugging in USB thumb drives. We need to prevent all these stuff, otherwise we don't have control. So the reality is that that's already been lost, because if you lock down your modern device so tight they can't be productive and they can't use it the way they should, you only enforce them or encourage them to find a shadow IT solution. This is basically how people started utilizing Dropbox.
Yes.
So I have so many cases of senior officers in municipalities using Dropbox as a shadow IT services to copy their entire shared folders so they can review documents on a tablet at home. So we see that locking down PCs and locking down the work tools is not the way of going, but instead enforcing security on each vector and level. Mm-hmm. So discussing with your vendor or provider, see what services they can do to enable a better shipping and handling of your devices. Doing platform and OSing hardening is always encouraged. So although I don't warmly speaking of locking down Windows, less is more. So the less you have to do is better, but do as much as you need. And then you focus on the identity management so that you ensure that the person logging into the device is have a safe authentication and is truly him or her. And then you start to focus on the application management, which many already does in iOS and Android. So instead of locking the device so tightly they cannot use their camera, you lock the application. And we have some practical examples of that where you cannot copy text from your work profile. So you cannot copy text from Outlook to Snapchat or WhatsApp because there's an isolation and protection level there.
Exactly, and this works across device as well. You're not just doing this on your Windows devices, but you're also doing it on your iPhone, your Android devices. There's a concept that we haven't said the buzzword for, but we've just described zero trust security. And I think that all those things we just talked about are core tenets to adopting a zero trust security. And really, as a Surface aficionado, I would say security, chip to cloud security. That's really what you're looking for. Certainly, our OEM friends also have some chip to cloud security. I think we guarantee the full acquisition, supply chain security all the way to the cloud. And that's what you really, really need, is to assume zero trust.
And of course, in your gym subscription and Microsoft 365 subscription, you have information protection as well.
Yes.
So it really doesn't matter if you want to use a Windows device, a Chromebook, iOS. Protecting your information and data is crucial. So it really doesn't matter if you have a lot of group policies and a lot of Intune policies on your Windows device, if all your employees are just going to purchase a Chromebook because it's so locked down. So finding ways of securing what you need to secure and not securing something that's just going to bug the user. So can we say that that's going to be do more with something new?
Yeah, I definitely I like that expression, do more with something new. There's obviously do more with less in terms of cost, but there's also do more with something new, in that you always have to look at what has actually been, what are the innovations that have come out in the last 5 years, and can you do more with those things? I already described Windows 365. That's something new. It's been around for a year. It really opens up a whole new, kind of category of something new that can solve some of the challenges that you have, and in the end, saving you quite a bit of money.
Saving money is something we always like.
Yes, definitely.
So thank you so much for your talk and your time, Brandon.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah.